Hey guys, what's up? Bob here. Today we're going to be doing a deck profile on my Cyber Dragons. Yeah, we're going to do that. Should be pretty fun. It's one of my favorite decks. It's always been. Cyber Dragons are just rad. Let's go ahead and oh yeah, first, let me I don't really have anything super Cyber Dragon-y to put in the background, so I've got my shield because it's rad and I like it. And wait, this is my deck box because it's freaking awesome looking. I think it looks cool. And last time I made a deck profile, or I think it was the time before that, somebody said my sleeves were ugly. So check these out. They're freaking awesome. It's Robot Dragon. So if you guys don't like my sleeves, then you're wrong. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, I don't remember the exact number of everything, but I don't have any traps. Mostly spells and then some monsters. So let's go ahead and take a look. So first off, for monsters, we've got triple Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon's really the MVP of this deck. Basically he's sort of a big beater, and you use him to make all of your really big beaters. Really just pretty much everything goes through him. So yeah, he's definitely, obviously, stable 3. This one's really cool looking. And then these two are freaking awesome looking because I love my ultra rares. So yeah, all really cool. 3 Cyber Dragon. Next up, 3 Cyber Dragon Core. Definitely the MVP of this deck. Cyber Dragon Core has 2 really, really good effects. First one, when you summon him, you can get a Cyber card, spell card, or trap from your deck. I obviously don't run the trap. It's still pretty good. It's basically like a return from the different dimension, but yeah, no room for traps, obviously. But Core, his second effect is actually the one that you use a lot in this deck, or at least I do. You don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but basically, if he's in the graveyard and your opponent controls a monster, you can banish him from the graveyard, special summon a light machine monster from your deck. Now, a lot of people are thinking, oh yeah, just summon a Cyber Dragon. No, you summon another Core. Core on the field gives you a ton of plays, and when he's summoned, you can do a lot of stuff. I'll get into that later. But yeah, this guy, definitely the MVP. Third, definitely the MVP of the deck, we've got triple Cyber Dragon Dre. We run 3 of him, mostly to, kind of add to the monster count. He's also pretty good because he's treated as a Cyber Dragon when he's on the field or in the graveyard. The graveyard effect, definitely important. Field, yeah, it's okay. You definitely want to have him. He's sort of, easy to summon beater. And he changes everything to level 5 when he's summoned, or all your Cyber Dragons, which includes himself. The second part of his effect that makes it so you can only summon machine-type monsters with, for the rest of the turn after you use that effect. Kind of a little bit limiting, but he's still super good. So he's my MVP, obviously. Next up, MVP of the deck, definitely Galaxy Soldier. He lets you do your light rank 5s. Basically what he does, you can discard a light monster, summon him from your hand, then you get to search another one. So you can either, summon a Cyber Dragon and then, summon this guy, or whatever. You can do a lot of different stuff with him. He's also super good in conjunction with Dre, because you can just drop Dre out of your hand, get a Cyber Dragon in your graveyard, which makes your spells live. Your Cyber Repair Plant makes that live, which is nice. Or you can, drop a Core in the graveyard, set up for your effect next turn. Even if you can only search one more Galaxy Soldier with his effect, like once per turn. So you can't, just like summon. But you can still do some pretty cool shenanigans with him. So I really like him. Definitely the MVP. Next up, two more MVPs. Obviously, Mathematician. His name starts with M, so he's got to be MVP. He's only in here to drop a Core into the graveyard. Once you do that, your plays are pretty much active. The fact that he lets you draw a card if he's destroyed by battle is really icing on the cake, but you definitely want your Core in the graveyard as soon as possible. So he's obviously the MVP. And last up, obviously the MVP is Honest. Yeah, basically when you have a light monster on the field, and your opponent attacks or you attack, just drop him and you basically win that battle. And if it's during your opponent's battle phase, you pretty much end it because they can't do anything. So Honest is super good. Everybody knows what Honest does. If he was at 3, I'd be running 3, but he's at 2. Anyway, that's it for the monsters, so let's get them out of the way. Okay, spell time. And you can obviously see what one's on the top. That's right, it's the MVP, Power Bond. Power Bond lets you summon Cyber Twin Dragon with 5600 attack and attack twice and just win. If you draw this, you will probably win if your opponent doesn't have any traps. So, super good. So that's why it's the MVP. Next up, one limiter removal. Now, limiter removal is the MVP of this spell cards. Honestly, like once you get some monsters on the field, just drop this, doubles all their attack on the spot. Yeah, they get destroyed at the end of the turn, but your opponent's not going to see the end of that turn, let's be honest. So, obviously, game winner, MVP. Next up, definitely the MVP for the late game, Overload Fusion. Overload Fusion lets you dump, or once you're all your monsters are in the graveyard, possibly after a botched limiter removal or whatever, you can just dump them all, banish them all, and get a Chimera Tech Overdragon with like 10 skillion attack and just attack for game. So, definitely this is obviously the MVP. Next up, we've got two of the MVP, Cyber Repair Plant. You could run three, but I think two's enough. It's searchable, and you don't actually use it that much. But yeah, it's still definitely the MVP. Once you get a Cyber Repair Plant, you can get any Cyber Dragon card you want, pretty much. Or, I think you can get Galaxy Soldier off of that too, yeah. So that's pretty nifty. More often than not, I end up getting Dre, because he's the MVP, and you can just summon him. He's the one you want in your hand. Usually, because the rest of them you can usually have in your graveyard or whatever. That's ideal. Or in the deck, because we've got double machine dupe. That's right, it's the MVP. Once you get a core on the field or a core in the graveyard, you can banish core from your graveyard, summon another core, machine dupe, and then you get two Cyber Dragons, which is really nifty. That's why Cyber Dragon's best off in your deck, because even though you can summon one Cyber Dragon, you could potentially be summoning three. So that's definitely really good. And of course, one-upped by the MVP of the spell cards, Inferno Reckless Summon. See, this works really well in Cyber Dragons, basically because core requires your opponent to have a monster. All of them really do. But once you banish a core from your graveyard, summon another core, you can chain Inferno Reckless Summon all of your Cyber Dragons, and if you have any more cores or any Dre's or whatever in your graveyard, they're treated as Cyber Dragons too, so you can potentially summon 4 extra monsters off of that, which is really, really nasty. It's not always ideal. Sometimes you really do want the machine duplication, because you can just normal summon this guy and machine dupe. But if you're going to special summon, you definitely want to have one of these. It's so good. And it can summon stuff from the graveyard, whereas machine dupe only does it from the deck. This thing just summons it from everywhere, and it's amazing. I've always loved decks that can abuse Inferno Reckless Summon, and this one does it really, really well. Speaking of, MVP of the spell cards here, Foolish Burial lets you quickly dump Cyber Dragon, doesn't put anything in your field. So basically, again, we're always going through this guy for our plays. But, once we can use our MVP card, Foolish Burial, drop him in the graveyard, and then we've got, an Inferno Reckless Summon play, or a Machine Dupe play, or whatever. Having core in that graveyard, super important. So that's obviously the MVP. This one, Sneaker MVP, Triple Reasoning. A lot of people will be like, oh man, this isn't Infernoids, you can't use Reasoning. Dude, anything can use Reasoning. Basically, what the nifty thing about this deck is, Cyber Dragon is level 5. Cyber Dragon Dre is level 4. Cyber Dragon Core is level 2. Honest is level 4. Mathematician is level 3. And what's the other monster? Galaxy Soldier, he's level 5. They really can't pick one level and kind of cut your deck off. You've got to kind of guess, which is really nifty. You can use this even after you've summoned, so you can potentially just get another card on the field. If they pick right, it goes to the graveyard, sets it up for the Inferno Reckless Summon, so Reasoning is super good. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer if you hate a Mathematician. Honest can put itself back in your hand, like on the spot if you need it to, so he's fine. If Mathematician comes out, it really doesn't do anything for you, but it is a nice little, just body to keep in the way for, blocking attacks. And, it's got 1500 attack. It's not the worst. Anyways, MVP, before it gets banned, we've got 2 Instant Fusion. I really like Instant Fusion in this deck. Basically, you can summon Panzer Dragon, who's a light machine, level 5, and if you let him stay on the field and he's destroyed at the end of the turn by Instant Fusion, you get to destroy one monster on your opponent's side of the field. But you're usually just going to use it for an Xyz summon, so it's not that big a deal. So yeah, we definitely want to run 2 of these, just to make easy Xyz monsters, just on the off chance that we only draw into like one Cyber Dragon or whatever. So yeah, it's super good. I would consider running this at 3 or whatever if you want, But you know, I think it's good at 2, and since it's the MVP, using 3 of them would be really cheap against your opponent. They'd probably rage quit. So anyway, next up, the MVP of the deck, Raigeki. Cyber Dragon monsters can only be summoned if your opponent controls a monster and you control none. So Raigeki is really good for, you know, you summon 10 squillion monsters and then just use Raigeki, eliminate their field, and then you can just attack for game. Super good, so we like it. And in the same vein, the triple MVP, 3 Smashing Grounds. The reason we're not running Dark Hole is because, again, we can only summon our monsters while they have monsters, so we need to have something that can destroy their monsters after we've summoned ours. Dark Hole does not fit that bill because it would destroy ours, so we run triple Smashing Ground. It also doesn't target, which is nice, and you can just, you know, kill stuff. So, really cool. Definitely the MVP. Last up, well, actually, no, not last. 2 of the MVP of the deck, Mystical Space Typhoon. We really can't be running into all that back row, so we want to run some back row hate, and just getting rid of, you know, the traps. Say your opponent starts off and they, like, you know, set a couple of traps. You want to be able to get rid of those. So MST, obviously super valuable. That's why it's the MVP. And last card, this is probably the MVP. 1 Upstart Goblin. Basically, you know, it's pretty much filler. But, you know, MVP at being filler, because basically what it does is it lets you draw into your combo plays, and since they gain 1,000 life points, that can be kind of annoying for certain decks, because they can't, you know, have enough damage output to you know, get over that in, like, 1 turn. Cyber Dragons tend to do just, like, 10 squintillion damage every time you attack. You can put on, like, a board of, you know, 18,000 damage, so, you know, doing 9,000 in a turn, very doable, especially if you're, you know, using Upstart to get into combo pieces. Really good. So that's the spells. Yeah, super valuable. All of these definitely the most valuable cards on the deck. So, you know, there you go. Last up, extra deck. This extra deck is not entirely complete. There are a couple of cards that I just don't have. Volcasaurus would definitely be the MVP if he was here, but you know, sometimes you just don't have that stuff. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look. Triple Cyber Dragon Nova, and I know a lot of people will be like, oh man, 3, that's way too many. No, here's the thing. I've used 3 in a turn. Like, once you hit an Inferno Reckless summon, you can summon all 3 of these, like, on the spot. Because you go into Nova, you go Detach, Summon, go into another Nova, Detach, Summon, go into another Nova, Detach, Summon. Then you've got, you know, Cyber Dragon, Nova, 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 and potentially something else. So, really easy to just make these really, really nasty boards with just, like, you know, 10 Squintillion Novas. And if they Mirror Force it, they lose because you just summon, like, 10 squillion monsters. 1 Wind Up Arsenal Zenmeo, definitely the MVP. Like I said before, we want to be able to get rid of back row, and he can do that. He's not, like, the best at it, but definitely the MVP for what we want to use him for. So, very cool. Next up, MVP of the deck, 1 Constellar Pleiades. Basically, he's a light monster, so you can use him with a couple of different things. Most of this deck is light, so you can summon him very easily. And the ability to bounce stuff back can be really, really nasty against a lot of different decks. So you want to summon him pretty frequently, honestly. Although, you know, if you can do a Nova play, you do a Nova play. But if you can't do a Nova play, you do a Pleiades play, basically. Which is why he's the MVP. And then MVP of the deck, Shark Fortress. Shark Fortress lets you attack twice with himself. So you can just pew pew and do like 5,000 damage, which is really good. Love having the ability to do that. He's basically like a mini Cyber Dragon, or what you call him? Cyber Twin Dragon, that's right. I remember names. So yeah, super good. Definitely the MVP. Next up, 1 Cyber End Dragon. I mean, what else can you say? He's got 4,000 attack. If that isn't MVP worthy, I don't know what is. So yeah, MVP of the extra deck. Super, super good. You can attack, does piercing. You don't really use him that much, but if a Nova dies, you can definitely summon this thing and absolutely destroy most things. So, super good. Next up, definitely the MVP of the extra deck. I can't even explain how frequently I summon this thing. Other than Nova, I probably summon this most out of all of them. Cyber Twin Dragon. You attack twice. I mean, like, every time you draw a what you call it, power bond, you're gonna want to summon this guy. Like, he's definitely the best thing you can summon off of it, because he's got 2,800 attack normally, but if you power bond for him, it's double that, so 5,600, and he can attack twice, which can, that's over what, 10,000, 11,200. Sorry, I'm not amazing at math. Yeah, 11,200 damage right there, and it's like, some people will leave their field open turn one. Okay, twin, attack, I win. It's super good. I mean, like, if your opponent doesn't know you're playing Cyber Dragons and they go first, they could potentially lose just right there. So definitely the MVP. This MVP against Shaddolls, basically it's Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. If you've got a Cyber Dragon and your opponent has whatever construct, Shikinaga, whatever, summon a Cyber Dragon, send both to the graveyard. You've got a 2,000 attack beater, and they don't have anything because they can't activate their effects. Super amazing. Basically, yeah, like I said, MVP against Shaddolls. You want to use this a lot, especially if you use an Inferno Reckless Summon play. You can summon, like, say triple Cyber Dragons and a core is, like your end field. They've got like a construct. Okay, I'm gonna send, Cyber Dragon core and construct to the graveyard, 2,000 attack, monster. Then triple Nova and a Cyber Dragon, which is, let's see, 10,100, or no, 10,400 damage right there. Super good. And that's building off of what they summon, so yeah, lol. MVP for the late game, because Cyber Dragons have one late game card. It's this. Chimera Tech Overdragon. If you can go ahead and use your Overload Fusion, this thing can come on the field with like 10,000 attack, and it can attack every one of your opponent's monsters at the same time. Or, well, like, it attacks all of them. Super nasty. So he's definitely the MVP. And then two more MVPs. Barbaroid, MVP, Battle Machine, because he's got 4,000 attack and can attack two monsters. Pew pew! And then Panzer Dragon and Cybersaurus. He's supposed to be another Panzer Dragon, but I only have one. And he summons off of your thing. Sorry about that. Yeah, cool. Anyway, Panzer Dragon's really nasty, because, you can just, okay, instant fusion into him, then go into a Nova, then start summoning 10 million monsters, and you just win. So, unfortunately, I only had the one. But basically, if I had two, it would be two. Although Cybersaurus is an awesome throwback, and look at that arm. He's got like a gun for an arm, so that's why he's the MVP. It's like Samus Aran, except a dinosaur. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this deck profile. We got like 10 squillion MVPs, so we're obviously going to win every single game. Yeah, it's been really fun. Like I said, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Later, guys.